Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. We are thrilled to be here once again. I see many familiar faces here, and I'm excited to walk through this grant workshop for our upcoming grant cycle. My name is Sarah Joss. Some of you might recognize me from my work with the county, and I might be a new name or face for some of you. I did just join the Strategic Partnerships team as a Community Investments Grants Manager recently. We also have Angelyn Johnson here, who is a grants manager that many of you know. And Rachel Nygaard is the Director of Strategic Partnerships, who is also on the team and leading the charge for all of our wonderful grant programs. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can everyone see that? Excellent. Well, welcome to our Early Childhood Education Grants Workshop. We have officially opened the application for this grant program, and we're excited to walk through, give some context and background for the grant program itself, and then give some specifics about the application, scoring criteria, and leave some time at the end for questions and answers. So our agendas today, we're going to be going over Buncombe County and the strategic plan. And then we're going to review the early childhood grant process that I spoke of with tips for a successful grant application, and then of course the Q&A and discussion. Buncombe County overview, as many of you know, we are one of the largest counties here in Western North Carolina, and we have a lot of wonderful information at www.buncombecounty.org. Everything from information about your county commissioners who are leading the charge for a lot of the decisions coming through the county to service areas and different departmental info. This is a nice organizational chart to give you a little visual idea of the structure of the county. So as I mentioned, under residents, of course, are our Board of Commissioners, who are our public officials who are making a lot of the political decisions for the county. There are 7 commissioners, and they serve 3 different districts. And then within that, under commissioners, we have our county manager, Avril Pinder, and our assistant county managers, DK Wesley and Sybil Tate, who then have their own areas or departments that they lead the charge on. And strategic partnerships falls under DK Wesley's purview. And you can see Rachel Nygaard on the screen on your left-hand side as the Director of Strategic Partnerships. Our Buncombe County Commissioners are dedicated to setting fiscally, socially, and environmentally responsible goals that will guide the decisions and improve the community for the future. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I think my screen just went out. Let me hop to it again. All right. Strategic planning. So Buncombe County's current strategic plan took effect in July of 2020. So we're now in our 3rd year of a 5-year plan. And the strategic plan is something that is very important for us to set priorities and visions for the future of the county. And you can dig in and learn more about the current strategic plan at buncombecounty.org/2025.
Sarah, we're not seeing your screen.
Oh no, let me try resharing. Sorry for technical difficulties. How about now? Okay. All right, the strategic vision is part of the strategic plan. And so the strategic plan articulates vision, values, and governing principles that we hope you see embodied in the work that you do with us as customers of Buncombe County. And as county government can't do this work alone, we really rely on our partnerships with our community partners like yours, and initiatives like this grant program to help us move the needle forward on these strategic visions. One of our strategic plan focus areas is educated and capable community. That's one of 4 community focus areas, and the one that is most relevant to early childhood grants. So within the strategic focus area of educated and capable community, there's a goal to increase kindergarten readiness. And at the FY24 budget retreat, county commissioners ranked educated and capable community as a top priority focus area for the upcoming fiscal year, with a specific proposed investment in pre-K expansion. So with that, we'll jump more specifically into the Early Childhood Fund, which was established in response to a well-documented local shortage of quality early childhood education programs and barriers that families face in accessing existing programs, including affordability and well-documented shortage of qualified teachers and staff in classrooms and centers. Resolution number 18-10-16 was adopted on October 30th of 2018, and it authorized the creation of an early childhood education and development fund for the purpose of annually investing $3.6 million, beginning in the FY 2020 budget, with an annual increase of 2% in future years. The Early Childhood Committee is the oversight for this early childhood education grant program. It's a 15-member body that includes 3 commissioners and a mix of community members that all apply and are selected to be part of the committee. And their role is to engage with community partners, solicit public input, and make policy and funding recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. So this is something where this committee meets through an open meeting forum, and you are welcome to join in virtually and watch those as they occur. The Early Childhood Committee are the folks who are actually going to be reading all of the proposals and evaluating each proposal and making recommendations to commissioners for funding. So in that light, we do ask that grantees not contact any committee members regarding their applications. If the committee decides to ask follow-up questions of applicants or hold potential interviews for finalists, applicants will be notified by county staff. So now we're going to dive even deeper into early childhood grants, including the purpose, funding, eligibility, timeline, review, and awards. Some grant basics for you. These grants are to advance early childhood success. This year, or for the FY24 year, which will begin July 1st of 2023, there is a total of $3,896,755 total budgeted for this grant program. And that is available to any organization type, including public governmental agencies, nonprofits, and private businesses. There are no restrictions on the amount of funding that can be requested or granted to an organization or project for this grant fund. And multi-year requests will be considered up to 3 years. So 3 years is the maximum for multi-year awards. Capital projects are restricted to public schools, and there is more information, specific details on that in the grant guidelines. Some funding priorities to be aware of with this fund. We're looking for early care and education for children birth through kindergarten. So that's infants and toddlers ages 6 weeks to 3 years old, preschoolers ages 3 to 5 years old, pre-kindergartners 4 years old and rising, and kindergartners 4 years old by August 31st. And then there's also an emphasis on preschool and pre-kindergarten. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with NC Pre-K. It's not specific to NC Pre-K, but that is something that we are also funding. Some funding strategies to be aware of. Our review team is going to be looking for projects working toward the strategies that you see on your screen. So that includes increasing slots for enrollment, increasing quality, develop or diversify early childhood workforce, supporting families, and enhancing effectiveness of overall system of early care and education. So now we're going to look a little bit more at the grant cycle. So this is going to be the schedule that you'll be looking at for the annual grant cycle for this fund. So we have grant applications open now until February, and we'll look on the next screen for specific dates there. And then the grant review will take place from March to May. That's when the committee is going to be reviewing and scoring each proposal. And then the grant awards will be made in June of 2023. And the grant period officially takes place July 1st to June 30th, which is Buncombe County's fiscal year. And then another part of the grant cycle is grant monitoring, support, and process improvement. So like I said, here is a specific 2024 or FY 2024 grant timeline. February 10th of 2023 is going to be when this round of applications are due. They're due by 5 p.m. and that is a hard and fast deadline. We do not accept late applications, so please make sure that you have logged into the portal, uploaded everything, and submitted it well before 5 p.m. that day to make sure there are no technical glitches or errors. And then February through April, the grant review will commence and take place by the committee. Recommendations for funding will be due to the county budget office by April 28th of 2023. Then in May of this year, the committee grant recommendations will be published with the county manager's budget message. And the following month, June of 2023, there will be a public hearing on the budget as part of the Board of Commissioners regular meeting, as well as grant awards finalized with county budget adoption during the Board of Commissioners regular meeting. And then per our grant cycle, we will have the funding year begin July 1st of 2023, and it will run through June 30th of 2024. So that's when contracts will be signed, funds will be dispersed, and the work will be done. So information on how to apply. We have a couple different avenues for applying for this grant. The first one is going to be through our grant software. And you can click on buncombecounty.org/apply to register. If you have never used the software before, you do have to create an account, but it's pretty easy to do so. You can also apply on paper or PDF. We do have hard copies available at our main office location, which is 200 College Street. It's the administration building, and our suite is 343. And the applications are on the back of the door, so you don't even have to come into the office. You can just swing by, pick up an application, and take it with you. For the online applications, there are instructions that will walk you through how to go ahead and apply in the grant software. Again, it's pretty straightforward. We'll walk through all the different application questions so you're aware of what you'll be asked to complete. You'll fill them in electronically in the grant software, and then when you're ready to submit, you can go ahead and do that. And you can save your work in there. Like I said before, that deadline is hard and fast, and no late applications will be accepted. So here's some scoring criteria, which has been updated this year, and hopefully will provide some really good detail and information to help guide your grant writing process. These scoring criteria were created between county staff and the Early Childhood Education Committee members. And you'll see that there is scoring on a scale of 1 to 5 across 6 categories. So you have a maximum total score of 30 points. Each criteria is weighted equally and worth 1/6 of the total score, so about 17% for each question. And the categories, I know that it's a lot of small text on one screen, but this is all included in the grant guidelines that you can access on buncombecounty.org/grants. The categories are need, project plan, proposed results, capacity, equity, and budget. And the committee will be looking at each of your application question answers with the scoring criteria and scoring matrix in mind, and then taking the total scores to then put forward potential award amounts or negotiated award amounts based on highest scoring projects. So as we look at the scoring criteria, they will line up nicely with the application questions that you'll be asked to answer through your proposal. So there are several application questions. Some of them are going to be pretty straightforward, but we can begin here with strategy. So here you'll select the early childhood focus area that best fits your project, and you can choose all that apply. So this will be a drop down. For the organization question, you'll tell us about your organization, its history, organizational structure, and about your staff and board. Then for the need for the project, this is where you'll explain why your project is important. So you'll want to use data or stories to show the need and describe how the project fits with the county's strategic plan focus areas and or goals. For project plan, you'll want to provide a clear explanation of what actions you'll take through your project in order to meet the stated need. So you'll explain who will be served and how the project will work. For results, this gives you a place to tell what impact your project will make. So you'll want to be specific here. What will be measured and how will you accomplish that? The committee will be looking for quantifiable results and a plan for measuring success. So any data or statistics or information of that nature that you can include here will be great. Slots and workforce. These give you a place to give more data if you are requesting funding for slots or workforce. Funding slots is not a requirement, but as you saw before, it is a priority area for this funding. People served. Here you'll tell us about the people your project will serve, including demographic information. So where they live within the county, any race, ethnicity, or other affiliation that you want to include for demographic information. Equity. Buncombe County has embraced equity as an organizational value and foundational focus area, and the committee would really like to know how you incorporate equity into your work. So they're looking for a demonstrated commitment to equity and to see it reflected in the proposed project. So something to really take into consideration. And for this question, we have defined equity based on how it is incorporated into Buncombe County's values expressed in the strategic plan. Collaboration, in this question, you'll list your collaborating partners and describe their role and how they will make your project stronger. So any other community partners that you might be working with, this is just a really important way to show the depth of your work in the community. Sustainability, everyone's favorite grant question. Explain your capacity to continue this project beyond the term of the grant. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Budget, you will be asked to complete a budget form, and the committee is looking for a clear and reasonable budget that's matched to the community need and your project plan. So make sure the budget reflects your total project costs and separates out what you hope to pay for with county funds versus what you hope to fund with other revenue sources. So kind of a comprehensive picture of the program. Partial funding. This is an opportunity to explain what are your priorities if you are to receive a partial fund. Partial funding is something that is offered. So the review committee will score applications depending on the amount available and the top scoring projects. Partial awards might be offered. They are not necessary if that's not going to serve your organization. You do not have to accept a partial award, but that is something that is considered. Multi-year funding. Again, you can request up to 3 years of multi-year funding through this grant program. So if you'd like to be considered for that, explain what amounts you would need for subsequent years and what the funding would allow you to accomplish. And then other is a place to add anything else you want the committee to know. It's also a place to attach any documents if you have items that you'd like to attach as accompaniments to your application or to bolster your application. So grant writing tips, I want to talk through a few tips for a successful grant application. These are not unique to Buncombe County grants in particular, but this is just some general information that you might have heard, other places probably have, but a nice little refresher. So keep the scoring criteria in mind. Before, during, and after drafting your responses, take a look at the 5 scoring criteria and put yourself in the shoes of a committee member who will be reading your application with these criteria in mind. Take your time. This means reading the full application in advance, including attachments, and creating a reasonable work plan to complete everything before the deadline. Did we mention we can't accept late applications? Be clear. Use plain language and don't overly complicate your plan or your message. Avoid acronyms and jargon, and don't assume the reader has any predetermined knowledge. Be concise. Often, less is more. The reviewers have a lot of material and information to work through, so don't feel like you need to use the character limits just because they're there. Be consistent. Make sure all the sections of your proposal match, especially the grant narrative and budget. Pay attention to detail, especially true on the budget workbook. So make sure that all of your numbers add up. And then here's the sustainability part again. Know how to talk about sustainability. That dreaded grant application question. And really here, you can utilize different components of your organization's strategic plan, such as overall financial health, annual fundraising efforts, additional grant funding, corporate and community partnerships, etc. So talk about the full picture of your organization's health and help to communicate the viability of your project's sustained success through different components. You don't just have to say, we're going to receive your grant funding and then we're going to apply for another grant. You can get creative with that. Be relatable. While always remaining professional, don't be afraid to show a little personality, enthusiasm, and relatability in your writing. You can get a little creative with that. Ask for help is the last one. And we do have grant consultations, one-on-one grant consultations with county staff. So that's myself, Angeline, or Rachel. There is a sign up available, and it is a 30-minute slot to talk through any questions you might have about your application or project, any thoughts or things that you just kind of want to suss out or get a little bit of advice from county staff. As a reminder, county staff does not score or evaluate the applications or proposals. So we don't have that bias or that influence. That's all going to be the review committee. So these one-on-one grant consultations are a really great opportunity to talk to county staff to make sure that you are submitting a successful grant application. This is a little reflection on our FY23 grant awards, which is the cycle that we are currently in. For our FY23 grant awards, 5.8 million was requested and about 3.8 million was granted. So quite a bit requested there. We provided funding to 17 organizations for 22 projects. 21,291 was the smallest grant awarded. The largest grant was $792,657, and the median grant was $125,442. So we have a full list of the current funded projects at buncombecounty.org/grants that you can go check out if you want to see specifics there. Like I said, we have opportunities for grant assistance. If you have additional questions, want feedback on your grant or any ideas or your application, you can book that 30-minute grant consultation with staff. And this is a link here to sign up through our Calendly. This is something we will be sending out or publishing a PDF version on our website of this presentation. So you can go through there. You can also reach out to Angeline and she can help you get signed up for those as well.
Yeah, and I actually will email these slides to everyone that is on here. And I also have put a link to that sign up in the chat so if anybody needs the actual link today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. In summary, we would like you to hear the message that we are here to help. Our doors are open. We are more than happy to have conversations with you, answer any questions you might have. We really want to be able to be a support to you all doing this really important work in our community. And please know that we are available and we are here to help. So please make note of our email addresses and feel free to reach out to any of us at any time. Again, Rachel, Angeline, and myself are all available, and this is our contact information. All right, so now I want to move into the discussion portion of our time together. We have a few FAQs that we can come back to if we want to, but I think at this time, let's go ahead and open up the floor for questions. So you can use Zoom's features or your camera to raise your hand. You can either put it in your question in the chat and Angeline will go through those, or if you want to turn your camera on and raise your hand, we'll take a look to call on you as well. And I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen, so give me just a moment. All right. Any questions? Questions can be about funding priorities with this grant program. They can be about the application itself. Oh, I see one coming through. Does Buncombe County allow an indirect cost line in the proposal budget? If so, is there a limit to the percentage of total expenses? Indirect costs are available to be included in your proposal budget. We do ask if you're including indirect costs, that is encompassing your administrative costs such as personnel and things of that nature, so that there isn't a direct cost line with personnel on top of an indirect cost line for administrative costs, just to make sure there's no double dipping there. Limit to the percentage of total expenses. I don't believe there is. If your organization has a NICRA or a negotiated indirect cost rate, you'll want to use that. But otherwise, I think for federal grants, it's usually about 10% de minimis. So that is something that you'll want to look at in relation to your total revenue as an organization, as well as what you are requesting for your total grant funding.
Sarah, I can take the next question if you want. Phil asked how many multi-year grants were awarded last year, and does this impact the amount to be awarded next year? So last year, there were no multi-year awards granted for that 1 year. There are some previous year multi-year grants. So we do have one grant, and it's right about $25,000. So yes, that will reduce the amount that's available by that $25,000. That's still a pending multi-year grant from a couple of years ago. Damon.
Yes. Can you all go over the priorities again for us, the ages of the age group? I got ages 3 to 5 and.
Yes, so we've got infants and toddlers, which is six weeks to 3 years. Preschoolers, which is ages 3 to 5 years. And then pre-K, which is 4-year-old rising, and then kindergartners, 4 years old by August 31st.
Okay. Thank you.
So Caitlin has a question in the chat. Are payments dispersed on a reimbursement basis every month? So that part is actually negotiable. Our general standard language that is just in our boilerplate contracts is for quarterly reimbursement. But if that doesn't work for your organization, and you are awarded a grant, you can work with staff and we can modify that template, and we can do monthly payments, we can do quarterly payments, however it works best for your organization.
Any other questions? And if you do have questions and you want to reach out to us afterwards instead, please feel free to do that too. I think I might have heard someone chiming in. Maybe not. Excellent. Thanks, Phil. All right. If there are no more questions, then we can go ahead and wrap up. I did just want to let everyone know that if you go to buncombecounty.org/grants, you'll see several different funding opportunities and grant programs. So please know there are multiple funding streams. This is one program of many, and please take a look at other programs available. You are not limited to one application for all grant programs. You can apply to multiple grant programs with different project proposals. So just take a look at that and see what might fit for your organization. FAQs. Brad, I'm happy to share the FAQs if you're interested in looking at them. So the first FAQ is, what does it mean that the county is prioritizing pre-K? And while funding is to support children ages birth through kindergarten, emphasis in the fund is given to preschool and pre-kindergarten. So you might have read the recent article in the paper about Buncombe County's interest in universal pre-K. This does not minimize the importance of early development or the critical community needs for services in this area. It's part of a targeted and proven approach to education. So current early childhood grants are a mix of projects for all age groups within the early childhood umbrella. And moving forward, the Early Childhood Committee will be making recommendations to the Board of Commissioners around different pre-K and kindergarten readiness programs. The other FAQs, Angeline, do you want to speak a little bit about how an organization can access their application history in the grant software?
Yeah, so if you log in, if you're a new user, as long as you associate your account with the organization that's existing, there's a tab in there where you can see historical requests. So if it's something that, there's some of the aspects that are the same, you can access that to copy and paste any of the information over that may apply to the new application. As well as, I know another issue that often comes up is someone will submit an application and they're like, oh man, I wish I would have said this on the application. As long as it's before the deadline, reach out to the staff. We can go in and unsubmit it for you so you can make tweaks to it, and I'll just be sure that you resubmit it before that deadline. And again, I know Sarah has said it multiple times, and we'll say it multiple times between now and the deadline. It is a hard, fast deadline, 5 p.m. The software will automatically cut it off. And we have it every year where somebody logs in, at 10 till thinking they have 10 minutes to submit it, and then their Wi-Fi goes down or something times out. Unfortunately, at 5 o'clock, the software cuts off and we cannot accept any applications once that cutoff passes. So make sure that you submit it early, well before the deadline.
Thank you. And the other FAQ is about restrictions on what county grants can be used for. I know that Caitlin asked a question about indirect cost before. This is pretty unrestricted funding. So the only real things to be aware of in terms of restrictions are we cannot fund charter schools. And like we said before, capital projects are reserved only for public schools. And again, if you want more detail or information about the definition of a public school, that's in our grant guidelines, and you can go check that out. But other than that, those are really our only two big things that aren't allowed for this grant fund.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, it is government funding, so it does have to be for a public purpose. And it can't support anything that would be considered lobbying or anything like that.
Any last burning questions before we depart for the day? All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. It was really good to see some of your faces. Thank you for asking questions, and please continue to reach out with anything that you might have on your mind. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening.